Let's dive into the world of tabletop gaming and painting with the Tippy cast. From rolling dice to mastering brushstrokes, we're here to fuel your passion. Join us for insights, inspiration, and endless creativity. I'm Daz.
And I'm Chris. So it's been a couple of weeks since we've did our last episode where we were talking about Salute, and one of the things I had on the table at that point was the Rumbleslam Stadium. I'd been chipping away on getting that painted and glued together and everything, and when I saw a picture of your Gamora stadium, I was like, right, I need to get this paint. I need to get it put together. I need to get the lighting done, and I managed it. Quite happy with how it all went together. I've used a few like photos, took a few photos with it, and absolutely love how it looks. Um, Printed off a picture of the Tippy Club logo, put it onto some clear plastic, and used like some tracing paper that the sheet came on. Uh, Made a little frame, made like an empty sandwich basically with that. And I've got a light that I use for when I'm recording, and you can do different light modes on that, and it looks awesome when that's gone. There's a video I've got up on Instagram with that, and it's just I love it. I just need to get the bleachers done, and that's that ready to go there. But this week, this couple of weeks on the table, I've been really inspired by the Fallout TV show, and there's been the next gen update for Fallout 4. So I've got a bunch of my Fallout models. I've been focusing on the Survivor faction, so like the Minutemen, your Scavengers. I still need to get started on dog meat, but I'm kind of saving him for later because I've got three of them to do at once. And yeah, it's nice to paint in a different style because when I've been doing the Rumbleslam stuff, I think I've said it before. I do very bright colors, very eye-catching schemes. Whereas with the Fallout ones, I get to do a little bit more of a like grime and grittiness, especially on like the survivors and stuff, just to make it they're out in the wasteland. Whereas like yeah, Enclave, they've got kind of like polished armor and it looks really clean. Just because they're government, so they need to look good. But yeah, so that's what I've been working on. Just a big batch painting, which I really do not like doing.
I'm not a
But
fan of batch painting either, to be honest. I haven't got the capacity
I've
for it.
I've set some of them, but like the unique characters like Mama Murphy and Sturgis and
Mm.
Preston. I've set them to one side so I can do a bit more detail on them. Whereas the like your rank and file sort of survivors, I'm just kind of quickly getting them painted, just because that's something I don't do. Like rank and file kind of characters. It's like I say with Rumble Slam, every model's a character, and there's like things that tie them together, like their outfits and stuff. But for the majority of it, everyone's quite unique. So it's rank and file is just it's not a technique I use very often. So at least it's something I can kind of practice with that. But what about yourself?
Well, I thought as we're getting on to the subject of scenery, I too have been doing some scenery. I just constructed yesterday my Sarissa Precision World War Europe village fountain. That is the
Mhm,
exact thing what it's called. It doesn't specify which part of Europe, but being a bit of a Carnival player and having quite an extensive collection of Carnival and the Streets of Venice scenery pieces,
mhm.
although it's outside of TT Combat, it was just too nice of a kit to pass up. And for do you know what? I believe I bought it at Warfare
Mhm.
last Yes. And they had it at a really good show price, and I just thought, you know what, I'll go for it. Really simple kit. Just it just layers up. It's really nice, and I'm planning on taking that a little bit further, not just keeping it as standard. I'm going to be putting some pulcinellas from Carnival around the fountain. Well, one in the fountain, one leaning up against it. Just because I think thematically, pulcinellas, they're drunk clowns.
Yeah.
You know, I just think, what's the epitome of drunk clowns? Falling in a fountain.
Oh, coming from a town with like 16 pubs or something like that. Yeah, I can see it.
I've also
Lots of pants and fonts and stuff that we've got in my town, and yeah, that'll happen.
I've also just finishing up the last two knolls that I had, because obviously the mountains side with the superstar that it comes with, that was about,
Mm.
you know, 6 models in the team, and the one I had left is just the one with all the rubbish on him, and it's just taking a bit of time because obviously I don't want to miss any of it, and they're all different colors because I want it to sort of really stand out. The
Mhm.
other ones are all based, done, everything's all done with them. Um, what else have I got? I'm gonna have to. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I'm still adding more colors to my tank. It's the tank's one of those things where my Russian tank's one of those things where it's like, because of its size, I tend to just sort of do bits of it at a time. If I've got like, if
Mhm.
I'm painting something else that's of a similar color, I'll sort of slap on a couple layers of paint, if just to sort of use it up.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and it's just saying, trying to get a bit more scenery done, trying to sort of chip away at the old pile. Just doing that, but other than that, not really a great deal. But I was
There's a vehicle I've got ordered from Only Games because I put another order in of definitely things that aren't alien, and one of them is quite a big piece. It's the APC from Aliens.
nice.
So luckily, that's just it's green. Put some chip metal on it, black wheels, done.
It is
So
very
once that
nice.
arrives, that'll be a nice, easy one to do.
But I say, because I saw your progress pictures of your ring, and that backlighting thing that you've done is just fantastic. It really is.
Hmm.
And it was kind of to the point where initially I was going to be putting like a curtain behind the entrance of my ring, but now I'm kind of looking at what you've done. I thought that looks really sharp, and I'm not going to do the Tippy. I'm not going to obviously do Tippy glow. I'm probably just going to use like the Gamora, and I might just use
Hmm.
like a purple sort of clear plastic. But
Hmm.
yeah, it would just look really sharp, and I thought that looks better than the curtain idea.
Oh, thank you. Um, the light that I was using in the back of it like where I took the video of it. It's just on my painting table, and the light splashing off of the white wallpaper I've got in here, and it just threw light everywhere, just a lot of splash light, and I think that added a lot more than I was expecting to it, and it like it paid off for the video and for photos. It just adds a whole lot of like visual interest on it, and the way I've wired it, because it's like it's three separate pieces. That main stage,
Mm,
you've got like your left wing, right wing, and yeah, your central stage area. I've got these clips underneath that just little levers on them, and you can like it's like solderless connecting
mm,
wires, and I can, if I need to take it apart for some reason, I can just unclip it. The wings come off, and then when I need to put it back together, I just thread it through, and it's connected by magnets, just the hold it together. So like if it gets knocked, it's not going to be like throwing it out of line. And I mean, my wiring is terrible. Like I've basically glued in a little shelf underneath that just the wiring can just sit in that. It's there. But I mean, it gives a little bit of leeway if something gets knocked and the magnet doesn't hold that, which it should because it's a powerful magnet. It'll give it a bit of leeway for the wiring to not pull out and everything. So there was method to the madness. It could have definitely been done tidier, but I'm not an electrician, and that definitely shows it.
Well, I think before we get a bit too deep into this, into the what's on the table, and I think we're slightly just getting into what we're going to be the main meat and potatoes of our episode here today, Chris,
Mm,
which is and scenery, how to take it further. Now, I know for you, Chris, just as much as me, that scenery isn't just a line of sight. It's not just a small piece of decoration on a
mm-hmm,
table, especially in Carnival. It's a useful piece of it. If anything, it becomes Venice itself is the third character or the third player.
mm-hmm,
You know, and in such a narrative-driven game, the scenery itself plays a massive part in it. And for
mm-hmm.
me personally, I find that the quality of your scenery, especially in a game like Carnival, really helps me immerse myself into that. And I just
Definitely.
and I think, but today we're talking about scenery. Scenery's great, but this is more of a you've done your scenery. How do I make it a little bit more spicy? I think would be the best way to sort of explain what we're talking about today, Chris.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you'd slap some paint on it, but I mean, a house is a house. An army ammo dump is an army ammo dump. What can you do to make it your ammo dump, to make it your house? So it's completely different to what I do. We could have the same table setups. Say the what we had in the new and shiny last time with the TT combat scenery kits for the Marvel Crisis Protocol. If we bought the same one, we we used the same color schemes, we could still make a very different feel to it through different things. I mentioned it in one of my videos about taking your scenery further by using environmental storytelling,
Mm.
and that's a big thing for me because I love games like Fallout, the Elder Scrolls games, Resident Evil, and it's stuff where your character is being placed into an area that's had its story told. When you go into Raccoon City Police Station, you've got the windows are already boarded up. There's bullet casings lying around. Doors have been smashed down, and like there's an entire story there that you're just running through that room. You're not stopping. There might not be a key item for you to pick up, but just looking at what's around there creates like something that Leon and Claire they're not part of, but it's part of the bigger picture.
Mm.
And with Fallout, there's things like the skeletons that you find that tell stories, like really grim stories of what happened when the bombs dropped and just after. Um, it gives there's like a thing in film where it's show don't tell, and like you're giving people enough information but withholding a fair bit to let the viewer kind of put the story together. So there's in that video that I did where I look at my dino gas station, I do that and I tell you the story that I'd put together when I was doing it. Like a robbery gone wrong in the petrol station quite early on in the outbreak because I put that kit together for The Walking Dead. In one of the Carnivale palazzos. There's like the dead body of the patrician from the Carcaros kit.
Mm.
Uh, he's just he's there in the like the basement of the palazzo, and there's like a whole narrative that I was putting together with that.
Well, as Bob Ross says when he's painting, isn't it? It says, create a story.
Mm,
And I think
exactly.
that's the best way to be. And I think things that are narratively fit into your board, it just makes it more interesting. It makes it, and you know, it makes the game interesting. And what's beautiful as well about a lot of the scenery that I've seen you do, especially on your channel, is it's not like a, oh, look at me, here it is. It's subtle, you know, and it's
Mm,
that's the key. I think it's finding that balance of interesting enough to sort of warrant a conversation, but subtle enough that it doesn't take away from the game that you're playing, which I think
mm.
it's finding that balance, which I think is really important. But with
Yeah, there's a TT combat kit. It's I got it as part of one of the white boxes a few years ago. It's like this big turbine,
mm,
and I got that scenery primarily for use with Necromunda. And my idea of that was it's like this giant grinder that's making corpse starch. So the like the corpse grinders are throwing the dead bodies into this big machine, and it's just pulp and everything. So within that, on the blades, you've got like a lot of gore effects
mm.
on there, and if you look into it, you can see there's like little bits of like arms and stuff like that. I think I've put a head in it. There's just like bits of like spare bits of model kits that I've put in, and it's like, you know, that that story's pretty self-explanatory just because of the like the scenery piece that it is. But again, it's like I've took that kit to create something that it wasn't
Mm.
necessarily made to be.
Now, for me, taking some scenery to another level, and I'm going to use Carnival as a large example of this because this is where I've done a lot of. I say me and my dad have done a lot of our leveling up of scenery is just through Carnival. So for me, I like to have scenery with a certain level of use.
Mm,
Prime example is in Carnival. There's obviously rounds and there's different, rounds, whatever, at each time.
mm,
And me and my dad were thinking, well, how's a way that we can monitor rounds without using a dice or without using like a token? And then I thought about it and I was like, well, we could just use a clock tower. And then we made, or every board that we now use has a clock tower in it at some place, so we can
mm.
use the clock as the round counter. And it's
That's a really good idea.
yeah, and it's so subtle, and there's different ways in all of the games boards that we have. There's a very subtle way about counting rounds with the San Germino tower, the really big tower.
Yeah.
The way we count rounds with that is we have flags that go into the top of the tower with different numbers on it, so
Mm,
we can count the rounds. And every board that we do has a working clock face on it. Like obviously it's not mechanical, but it's just something that simple where we've now made a piece of scenery that otherwise wouldn't have really had much use other than just being a line of sight. Because obviously most clock towers in Carnival are quite big and generally no one really climbs them.
yeah.
A piece of scenery
Yeah,
like
you
that,
kind of that's kind of like an objective in itself
yeah.
to do. Like you'd have some sort of game with like game mode with that.
And we've turned like any tower, like clock towers, like things like that, from something that initially wouldn't have had much use
Hmm.
into something that now it's that's what I mean. It's so subtle. And
It's
then
got to function within the
yes,
game without taking you out
exactly.
of the game.
And what's good about it as well, um, carrying on from that, we bought a old I think it was from the Fantasy Realms set. It was another clock tower.
Mhm.
But it had the plastic sort of clock, plastic clock face on it.
Mhm.
So then me and Dad decided to put a light behind it. So obviously it would, and that looks really sharp, and it's just carrying on from that. Now, the collapsed tower from the San Canciano Sunken City set,
Mhm.
um, again, because obviously it's a collapsed tower. And again, the way Dad's done it is he's done the clock face that we actually use. Obviously, it only goes up to about 5 because you
Mhm.
don't really need many more than that. He's just done the 5, and then he's put the other bits of broken clock nearby. So obviously, it still looks like it's a clock tower. We still get to use it as a round counter, but it looks,
And it's damaged because the rest of the tower's
and it
damaged as
fits.
well.
I like when I like to upgrade scenery, I like to provide it with a level of function myself.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing I started doing with Pitchstone is I really like the idea of having like a set of gallows, and then
Yeah.
I was going to hang, I was going to get like 4 or 5, like obviously corpsed bodies that make it look like they're being hung, and then I could just hang them on the gallows as round counters. So obviously, depending on how many corpses were
Yeah.
on the gallows, were like how many, were how many rounds we were in. And that's what I mean. I like
Mhm.
giving it a level of function for me. Um, but as you said it with the Rumbleslam ring, that's 100% just for the show because it doesn't
Yeah.
have any
That
of the
is.
function.
Yeah. That's purely just look what I did.
Yeah. Similarly to you, we used magnets to run the electricity through. So they
Mhm.
all magnetize together, and then the electricity runs. Again, my dad's pretty very clever with electronics and stuff. I'm going to try and find a picture, but he upgraded just little things as well, like the Doctor's paddle boat. Upgrading the scenery, upgrading that, he put blue lights in it to make it look like it was powered by the soul energy that the Doctors
Mhm.
use.
That's a really cool idea. I like that.
And also, my dad used to collect um, Napoleonic naval warfare. The sort of like I think it was like that sort of size,
Mhm.
and he would still do like the rigging on it, like in that miniature. So then he was like, "Well, if I'm doing a small ship or a small boat, it will have rigging on it."
Mhm.
And he's done all of the rigging and the rat runs on all of these little boats that we've got. They're all rigged up and they've all got sails, like cloth sails. Not that he took away the
Yeah.
wooden ones.
Yeah. Because am I right in thinking the kits, like you get the MDF sails
Yes,
and things, but there's fittings for if you wanted to use like cloth and things like that, and for doing the rigging,
yeah.
there's like fittings
Yes,
to
there
do
is
that.
there is the means to do it, but I think a lot of
Mm.
people would just wouldn't. But yeah, and then
I think that's the same with what is it? One of the Rumbleslam models. I forget her name. She's part of Moot Carlo. She's like the drowned lady.
Bella Aguiza.
That's the one. Where she's got the shawl over her
Mm.
face as an option thing, and there's not many people I've seen who have actually used that. I was one of them, and I did made it look like a sheer material,
I see if I
and
can find a picture of
it's a
my
shame because
dad's.
it's a really good thing to do with that model.
Oh, it is. Oh, here we go. So here's a good picture of. So we did. This is the small patrician's boat that they did.
Hmm.
So I'll see if you can sort of see that.
Hmm.
It's like all rigged up.
Yeah, that's nice. That's the ropes and everything running down it.
Yeah, and obviously because he knows like sails and rigging and everything, he knows where the ropes
Hmm.
need to be. He knows everything like that.
Well, you can
And
see it 'cause
it's
it looks like the sails are rolled up on that as well, and
yes,
they've got like a lot of a lot of the ropes around it.
and that's it. And I think it's, and again, for upgrading a piece of scenery, which, by the way, the boat kits that they did were great kits. Like
Mhm.
they weren't bad kits. You know, it was very obvious this is laser cut MDF. It's going to be, you know, but they gave you the option, which is
Mhm.
nice. And then my dad just looked at that and went, "No, I want to do it like this."
Yeah.
And again, just upgrading your scenery, even something like the boat, just little things, I think, really make it. And you know, I will use this example, and I'm sure you're going to put the link in this with you, Chris, when you changed one of the church in Carnival to more of a Dagon church, just with a couple of
Yes.
little, just a little couple of trinkets on it.
Yeah.
You've changed it, and
I
it's
just used green stuff and kind of just sculpted it, just really basic sculpting because I'm not a sculptor. I'm about as much of a sculptor as an electrician, and yeah, just sculpted out like the triangle of it, and then just made the extra bits for like the eye of it and everything, and like the little strips that come off the side of it, and then just stuck them all together once everything had cured, and and then I was looking through the rule book, and what gave us the idea for doing that is one of the churches in one of like the scenes that they've staged with the models. The church has that above the door, and I was like, yeah, well, why wouldn't they have a like why wouldn't they do that with the church? They've like the Vatican's left the people of Venice to get on with it. Dagon, the Church of Dagon, have went in to help the downtrodden, and that's why they're such a loved group because of the charity work they do. And then I was thinking, well, they wouldn't have the stained glass windows that the Christian church would have. They would replace them.
mm-hmm,
So I started uh, looking for like decent sized picture, usually from the character cards, and I was just tracing them onto some like clear plastic, and then making like thinking if this was a stained glass image, how would the lead lining go on it?
yeah,
Just using a sharpie, just putting it in, just coloring it in with other sharpies, sticking them onto the windows on the inside of the windows, and yeah, it came out really good. In the well, if I do say so myself, um, and it's like it's not really obvious of the characters. So it's like when they've got the creatures, as I've got one where it's like the Mogra head, and then there's some of the more like fish
mm.
creatures in there as well. So it's like they're blatantly advertising what the Church of Dagon's capable of, but it's in a weirdly subtle way as well. And then the round windows on the top of the church, that's the Dagon sigil.
Yeah.
And when you put a light inside of the church, it really lights it up really well. And I was really happy with how they turned out.
And that's it. And again, it just comes back to that. It's about subtlety to it, you know, and
Mm,
it's not a forced thing, you know. It's you've looked at the fluff that comes in the Carnival, you've looked at the building, and narratively, what you've done will fit,
mm,
you know. And I think as well, what that does, and this is just me, it makes the board that you're creating feel lived in.
mm.
And we did the same with a couple of our kind of like we basically printed off like we made like really small posters of like wanted posters of what's her name, she does all the flames, Zelina, Zelina Vela.
Yes, yes, Vela.
And So yeah, we put like wanted posters up of stuff like on sides of buildings, and just little things like that to make the board that we have, when people look at it and go, oh, this genuinely looks like a street that's just at night time now, where all the people have gone away. You know, market stalls, just market stalls, posters, weathering in the right places of buildings.
Hmm.
Blood splats on buildings, scratch marks, things that would already kind of be there if
Hmm.
given the narrative of it. And like I've got World War II buildings as well that that have had bullet holes in them, and it gives it a real sense of it being a real living place that people would have inhabited.
Hmm.
And I think that's just as important when you're um creating a board or improving scenery, that you don't want to sort of make it look like it's forced being there, and you also don't want to do. And I think, and I know this is going to be one of those things that I'm probably going to say quite a lot in this, is it is very much a less is more.
Hmm.
Because if you do too much, it takes the specialness away from each individual thing that you've done. I like
Yeah,
I
if you've got every house just rattled with bullet holes, then
hmm,
it doesn't make the bullet holes quite a special thing on your scenery.
I very much am like the kind of person where, like, if I was like, for example, like if I was playing a game with you, Chris, and we're playing Carnival and you had all the scenery up, that I would sort of like, as we're sort of playing through and I get to buzz like, oh, that's cool. Like, I don't want it to be sort of like staring me in the face straight away. I kind of want to discover it myself,
Hmm.
and it just sort of not be super in my face. And then I sort of, as I sort of be knocking around, and then it'd be like, oh, that's nice.
There's like some amazing boards for Carnivale. Paul Dent,
Mm.
he's
Oh,
doing
he is one of the
he's doing some
best.
amazing ones. It's like there's one that's like a tower attached to
Mm.
like a building. He's built like a spiral staircase in
Oh, he's
that,
he's done some insane
and
things.
his his scenery is absolutely insane. It's like to a whole new level.
Mm.
And Renz's board as well. The board that Renz has put together, it looks fantastic. It's another one where me and him could use the same kits, and ours look very different just because of how we approach it. Where my scenery, it looks very clean. It's like quite bright colors to it, and that's to kind of contrast the models that are on there. Whereas Ren's board is it's like it's got that real grit to
Oh,
it. Like
definitely.
buildings, he's got damage. He's got like the wooden boards across it, like period accurate, like stop the house from falling apart. And they've got like like destroyed bits of like walkway and rubble and stuff like that on his ground pieces, and it's just absolutely incredible how like again going to storytelling and adding detail. It elevates it so much.
Oh, definitely. And I think, as well, when you're sort of looking at scenery and you're wanting to sort of make it stand apart from, other people's, again, because TT Combat sceneries packs are, they're designed to be quite easy to build, and they're
Mm-hmm.
quite, you get a good value for money with them, but making them your own, that's what's going to set you apart from other people's boards. Even so, just as
Mm-hmm.
simple as, making the doors open, or just putting some plexiglass, behind windows to make it look like there's actual glass in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just little things. And
what I've done in a bunch of my scenery kits from TT Combat is I've made little slots that windows can go into. So again, using the Dino Gas scenery, all of the windows in that you can take them out and then replace them with broken ones.
Nice.
And then when I'm playing The Walking Dead, I use the smash rule. So as zombies grouping up on it, the force of them can smash the window. So then that becomes a new way for them to get in rather than going through doors.
Mm.
But it's also a new way for you to get out once they've moved out the way.
And that's it. That's that storytelling again of bringing it's more bringing an inanimate piece of what would have been just board filler.
Hmm.
It's bringing it to life and giving it that story to play within your game. And I think that's the main key thing. I think was as a takeaway from this is
Hmm.
scenery can be just scenery if you want it to be. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But if you are wanting to take scenery to that next level, it doesn't have to be anything magical. It doesn't have to be anything technologically outstanding. It could literally just be as simple as
Hmm.
as weathering. Weathering it
Yeah.
is one way of bringing it to sort of life, if you want to call it that.
Using a bit of card just to add a dado rail in a house, so you can have like a transition from one color on the bottom of the wall to another on the top, or adding like a skirting board. It's stuff that it's not major, but it's something that makes it your own. And it's like someone lived in that house. They didn't just paint the walls.
Mm.
They like they designed something for it. They had like a plan for the house. Uh, One of the houses I've got from TT Combat, it's like the outside of it is it's like striped. So like I guess like panels like wood panels going over each other like slats.
Mm.
What I'm wishing I did, it would just be too much to do now, is using strips of card to actually make that like slat.
Mm.
So when you're looking at the house from the side, you get that little bit of jagged like silhouette from it. And again, that's got no impact on the game. I just think it would look cool. You're adding texture by just making a little bit of 3D effect to it.
And as I saw some gent, I can't remember the life of me what his name was, making these sort of tiled roof, um,
Mm.
just by so with like corrugated cardboard. He took sort of like one of the layers off corrugated cardboard, like, and then if you actually look at
Hmm.
that, it does look like tiles. And I thought that again, something like
Yeah.
that. It's you're really only restricted by your own imagination,
Hmm.
and because if you want something enough, there's plenty of information out there on YouTube. There's plenty of information out there on the internet as a whole, where you can someone at some point would have had the same idea as you, or if not, you might have trailblazed it.
Hmm.
But I think it's
But it's how I discovered EL wiring.
mm,
Because at the time when I worked at McDonald's, the window at in the kitchen, it's just right at the top of the thing, so you don't get to actually see outside. You just see the sky. But right next to me was a petrol station, and just on the forecourt, you could just see the light strip on that. And I'd bought the the petrol station kit, painted it up, and then I was just sitting thinking, how could I create that? What could I do to add that onto it? So I had to look up like wire like lighting strips,
mm.
and that's when I discovered the electroluminescent wiring. And then I learned about the EL panels, and it's like this is exactly what I need. And I need to redo the wiring on that petrol station, because I've also got a white one underneath to light up the forecourt. But the wiring on that, because it's like really just bodged together, because I mean, these wires aren't made to be connected like that.
No.
So I had to like, get creative with some workarounds on it. And since then the white ones just it doesn't connect anymore, so I need to fix that. And but yeah, it's just I was just looking at something in the real world and thought, what can I do to make that?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's you've seen a need for something and you've looked into it, and it was your imagination that kind of got you there. And that's what I mean. It's you've turned what would have been a very simple kit into something that is very unique. It's very special, and it's important to you because that's
Hmm.
that's something that you've taken from your own life and then created that in miniature. And it's
Like
that.
it even went down to ink, not ink, oil spots uh, on like the workshop area on the floor of that, and like you said, where you would print it off like wanted posters. I printed off like girly pin-up posters, putting them on the wall. Got some like car calendars,
Mm.
just shrunk them down and printed a bunch of them off, stuck them all together. So you've got like a little thick calendar to stick on the wall as well.
And that's what I mean. It's just that simple. And I mean, even with other scenery, like rocks, fence posts,
Hmm.
even like foliage and stuff like that, is again bringing that to life is just really simple, just by adding a splash different color. I mean, granted, flocks that you can buy these days, you can now buy them in like seasonal flocks, like
Yeah.
autumnal, spring, summer colors. We're in a day and age now where we're getting to a point that everything's kind of already catered for,
Hmm.
which is good. But I think
There's
it's little things now.
and there's things that I did with the Walking Dead barn where it's flat panels, but I took a saw blade and I just dragged it down lengthways down down the sides of the building, just to kind of add some wood grain to it.
Mm, and that's it.
And then on the inside, using jute twine, and I just cut it into little bits, unfurled it, glued it down, just PVA glue, and then just painted it to look like hay.
And that's it. I say it's bringing an otherwise inanimate object to life, giving it not just the sense of, oh, it's a piece of scenery. It's now,
Hmm.
oh, this was being used. It was, this is something in this world that I'm playing in, and it gives you as the player a certain level of immersion.
Hmm.
And I say, I go back to Carnival because I said it's very narrative driven. And you know for example, we've got a piece of kit. It's a guillotine, TT combat guillotine. And my dad being my dad and me being me, we wanted it to work.
Hmm.
Like, you're not going to be able to decapitate anything, but I mean, the blade, guillotine blade, goes up and down.
Yeah.
And that then becomes a centerpiece for, and I think there might be a way that I might be able to get it to work, that it might actually chop something's head off, like I just use magnets. I'll think about that.
Yeah. I was just
But
thinking magnets and maybe have a um like same polarity to kind of force
yeah,
the head off.
and that's it. But then it becomes like a centerpiece, and then that guillotine.
Hmm.
I built a whole scenario for Carnival around the guillotine, because it was like, oh, the Vatican. So the way the story I gave it was the Vatican were executing uh, heretics. Um, they and non-believers, And then it was the job of the guild to save these citizens who were being terrorized by him. And it was, for every round that you had sort of gone through, and the idea is the guild was trying to take and hold the guillotine.
Mm-hmm.
So the Vatican forces were very much defending the guillotine, and then as the guild were then trying to take it to sort of stop the public executions.
Mm-hmm.
And from just a singular piece of terrain, we were able to make a whole scene, a scenery around it. And it was just, and I think as well, like we had, so I get it had someone who was next to the guillotine, could spend 2 action points to use the guillotine to effectively
Mm-hmm.
execute someone. So and then that would incite certain benefits and things. It was a very long time ago, but from it working, what was once a stationary piece of kit then becomes a very living thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the beauty of MDF terrain personally, over resin, because obviously resin's a little bit more difficult to work with. It's a bit more solid.
Yeah.
um but MDF scenery, especially laser cut and the really thin stuff, you can really do a lot more with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's even just as like even just as little as just you know painting extra things on it. Like some of the roofs of our stuff have got like proper paintings that would have been on flat roofs in Venice. So my dad
Mm-hmm.
did a lot of research. A lot of it's very period accurate. Um, and the Palazzo, what was it? What clock is it? It's the big Piazza San Marco, that the plaza, but it's got like all
Yes.
the Il Dottore or something like that. And there's a clock on it, and it's zodiac
Mm-hmm.
signs. And my dad's painted all those on because it's accurate. It's time
Yeah.
it's time accurate. And I think that's just as important. Um, if that's the way you want to go. I mean, again, at the end of the day, it's your scenery, it's your story. You do it how you want. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what we wanted to do personally, was try and keep it relatively authentic, like using authentic colors.
Mm-hmm.
Using you know what would look like materials that would be around. And just making sure. But it also matched the minis as well, and I think that's something I think is worth mentioning as well, that it's got to match your figures. Like for
Mm-hmm.
example, as you just said, with your Rumbleslam stuff, it's quite bright colors, it's very poppy, it's very bright stuff, and your painting of your scenery for Rumbleslam matches that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas mine is a little bit more gritty and a bit darker, so my Rumbleslam ring reflects that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's just as important as well, because I think if your figures don't match your scenery,
It stands out
yeah, and it kind of
a
sticks
lot.
out a bit. And then again, that immersion goes. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what's important, is that's why I really enjoy making sure scenery's nice, and giving certain bits of scenery that story, because especially if it's like a building that kind of is very different from other buildings, they're the ones that I tend to put that extra effort into.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a one of the kits is the Casa Sam, what was it? The Casa Elisabetta, the one that looks like it's got like a roof terrace. It's got like a pergola on
Is
the
that the
top.
one where there's like a lattice
Yeah,
thing?
and with that,
Yes.
I've done like plants on it, and it makes it, again, because it's quite different from other
Yeah.
other buildings.
That's what I'm wanting to do with my. I still need, like, I've put it together, painted, glued it all together, and everything. And that's one of the things I want to still add to my one with the lattice. Because, like I say, using the jute twine,
Yeah,
It's like these plants are. It could easily be explained as these plants are corrupted by the powers from the rent, and it's made the plant like maybe say creeping vines into something a lot more horrific. So I start adding weird colored flowers to the piece and stuff, and it just again it's something that would make it look cool.
exactly. And it's not even something massively difficult. You know, it's you just used
Hmm.
a bit of twine, unravelled it, stuck it down, painted it, and that's it. You've turned something very mundane into something quite exciting, and then given it a story, which make again adds to the appeal of it. And I think
Hmm.
adding a story probably makes life a lot easier when it comes to doing these scenery upgrades. I think is the best way to do it. And I mean, for me, if I can have a takeaway from this and to sort of summarize the meat and potatoes of scenery improvement is I think build a little bit of a story about it first to encourage you
Hmm.
to sort of keep it in theme and to sort of so you don't overstretch yourself. And again, I personally believe me it's a less is more situation. Don't
Hmm.
overdo it. And I think yeah, just don't be dissuaded for it. Just even something as simple as just adding some vines to the side of a building to make it look like there's ivy
Hmm.
growing up it. That's going to set that piece of kit aside from every other bit of building that you'll have and someone else who potentially has the same piece of kit.
Hmm. Like to go back to the church that I built, the the inside of it, I ended up putting uh these like basically it looks like I've painted jewels onto it
Mm.
because I enjoy doing like gem painting and stuff like that on models. Um, Again, it's just like something that sets the sets the model apart. So doing it on this, in it's flat, like flat floor, but I've managed to give it like that 3D look to it. In my the idea in my head was right beneath this floor is like spawning pods and places where the summoning up like these like Dagonite monstrosities, these Rashar creatures. So during these masses and stuff that they're having, if you're watching through like looking into this jewel, you might see some creature swimming about underneath because it's actually just a window into some water. But again, it's just something. If you are looking at the piece, it's like, oh, he's painted a jewel on there. But in my head, it was there's a story behind it.
And I think that's what's important as well. That's what's setting it apart as well. You're giving it that extra oomph as well.
So let's have a look at what's new and shiny.
Yes, letters indeed. Now, with the now I know Chris is going to be talking about a couple of the new Rumbleslam superstars that have come out. I
Just arrived through the post today.
They have. I mean, I was lucky enough to see them on sale at Salute, and um I did pick up one of them. Um, and yeah, so Chris, you want to take us away, and I'll just sort of pipe in as and when.
First one I'm gonna talk about is the Bait and Switch, the new tag team for the pieces of D8. And I mean, we had my little nephew round when I got home from work, and opened the box up. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, "Oh, look, a fish!" It's the most horrific looking angler fish you've ever seen. But it's just such a nice. I say nice. It's a horrific looking model, but in the nicest possible way.
Oh, it is.
Just I cannot wait to get that painted. Give it like the milky eyes and stuff of the anglerfish.
like I mean, look, anglerfish aren't the most attractive looking fish
No,
as it stands.
definitely not. But when you live in darkness like they do, I mean,
You have to
it's
have a good
fine.
personality.
They've got a very bright personality hanging off the end of their head.
And that's it. But I think TT Combat have really, really captured the essence of the anglerfish in bait and switch.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, bait is a little. I think bait is a little bit cute as well.
Yeah. And that's just a great contrast to how horrific Switch is.
Mm.
And I would be very surprised if the designer of particularly of Switch, if they don't do some Carnivale models for some Rashar. I would be very, very shocked because that model just it screams Rashar.
Well, they do have all that Hydra stuff coming out, so I imagine that's
Mhm.
probably not too far behind. The Rashar probably could do with some weird anglerfish thing. I shall suggest
Oh,
it to them. But
it'll be pretty sweet.
It is a
But
beautiful model, and the mechanic of it is pretty intense. It's pretty cool as well, isn't it?
very unique. Like the other tag teams don't operate like this. So the way they go, if Bait will immediately swap out for Switch if he takes damage, and regains all of the health as soon as they get tagged out, unless that attack knocks them out. But they're only, I think it's a 4 health, so like you'd need to hit them with something, either a good move or get a really good beat down on them. And in which case then they'll still tag out, but they're removed from the game.
So then it just becomes Switch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is actually quite
And
cool because, say, traditionally tag teams has always been, both tag team members have been, one of them's, historically a brawler, the other one's more of a grappler,
mm-hmm.
And they'll tag in and out as and when. I mean, granted, it's been pretty, it's pretty obvious that they've been sort of moving away, trying to experiment with new things like the King and Queen of Hearts for the keep,
Mm-hmm.
how they operate. They're like chess pieces, and that's been interesting. And it is nice to see them experimenting with more thematic things of tagging out and getting a bit more creative.
Mm-hmm.
So seeing
Like
bait and switch, yeah, it's
the
nice.
Stargate, as they had a pretty cool new way of interacting with each other as well. But like you can place down Stargate and you can tag through them and like teleport across the ring with it.
And that's what I mean. It's where TT Combat designers have been going recently with sculpts, rules. It's nice to see them really pushing the envelope and really pushing the boundaries of the game,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to keep. And I mean, look, let's be honest. How much can you realistically do in a game that's that small? It's only in a 10x10, and
Yeah.
you're trying to keep it balanced. You're also trying to keep it
It's
fun.
5 rounds.
How do you keep that fresh? It's
Mm-hmm.
and they seem to keep doing it with like these new characters that are coming out and the rules. And yeah, I just think they're doing a absolutely sterling job.
Mm. Well, another one that bucks the trend of the other wrestlers is Diodon.
Mm-hmm.
So this one character has 2 models because there's 2 versions of him. He's like a blowfish, and he can inflate if he takes damage. So you roll a crowd dice if you damage him, and if you roll a boo, then I think if I remember right, it's based on how much damage you do to him, how many crowd dice you roll. So the more damage you do to him in a single hit, there's more chance of him inflating.
Nice.
And when he does inflate, he becomes just this massive brawler. And you swap the model out from just like the 1x1 base, or the inch by inch base, to be the 4x4, because he massively inflates.
Oh, the weight, the traditional
you
weight
swap
3
the
bases.
model out. Yes.
Ah,
yeah,
nice.
and he goes from weight 1 to weight 3 as well, and when you swap the card out. he becomes just this big brawler who deals bleed damage.
Nice.
And it's just like his abilities, like special attacks that he has when he's like shrunk down, they're removed on the new card, and he just has passive abilities. And it's just like that's going to be a really cool model to use, because like if you hit him and he inflates, since you're changing the base, he like if he can't go into that spot, he pushes everyone around out of the way so he can fit.
Nice.
And that deals damage to friendlies and enemies. So you kind of have to
So you could use it to your advantage as well.
wager where you're using them.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know what? I've seen the models, and they are very funny, and
Mm-hmm.
they do look great.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a one that I'll just hit with the airbrush, because you don't need to be massively detailed with that model, particularly the inflated one.
Yeah, it seems to be a very solid
Mm-hmm.
one color guy. But again, that's not to say that it's not. You know, it's it's not a beautiful mini, because it is. And I
Yeah,
think it's beautiful in its simplicity.
yeah. I was just about to say, like the simplicity really makes that one.
Mm,
But then going to a one that is just beautiful, we've got Lady Luck.
yes,
I think, did you say was it last time we were talking? You're going to pick up an extra one for Rumbleslam, one for Carnivale.
yes. Yeah. So basically, I want to have one for my Rumble Slam. And then, because obviously it's a figurehead for a ship, I'm going to use the second one to put as a figurehead on one of my Carnival boats. And I just think it'd be very hilarious, and I think it would look really nice. It wouldn't look out of place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, since we have been talking about improving scenery, just putting a figurehead on a ship, that's
Mm-hmm.
taken that to being up, because let's be honest, in that time, most ships that day would have had figureheads,
Yeah,
and it doesn't look
and
out of place.
this model itself, part of the model is the bow of the ship.
Yep,
So her back is kind of angled for
yep.
it. So it would be very little, if any, modifying need to be done to her.
So yeah, it's definitely going to get a second one of that, just for that reason alone.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, really beautiful model. And I think I got a slight glance, and you'll probably correct me on this. Is the grain of her, is that sculpted in, or would that have to be painted on?
I think she's like the look of it. She's like just like a golden statue
Oh, I see.
rather than
A wood.
like a carved wooden thing. But I'll just take it out of the pack there. That's very smooth.
It's still not a problem. I mean, I would probably paint it in a gold or a
Yeah,
brass, but that's just how I do it.
yeah. I'm thinking of doing a gold with like a green wash over it
Nice. For
to make it stand out.
maybe a bit of verdigris. I don't know.
Yeah,
So stat
the
wise,
the bow of the ship's like quite a nice looking,
nice. Yeah, that is a really.
quite a nice looking piece.
And that's what I mean. So it's just pushing that boundary, and I think, and again, what we sort of looking, is she a bit more of a brawler, a bit more of a grappler, or is she?
She's definitely a brawler. There's a two silver plus one attack.
It's not bad.
Defense, a gold, a silver, and a copper. 3 copper grapple. Dex is 1 silver, 1 copper.
Can't moan at that, can you?
5 movement, 4 action, 8 health, throw 3, weight 2. Turnbuckle ability and rope ability are 2 action points each. And whenever a friendly wrestler successfully pins or throws an enemy wrestler out of the ring, gain an endorsement reroll.
That's cool.
And her crowd pleaser for 1 AP. Wrestler's brawl attacks gain shove 2 until the end of its next activation.
Oh, so definitely more of a supporting supporting brawler. That's nice.
Yeah, she can handle herself in a fight, but she definitely helps the team out.
Oh, very much so. Does sound the way. But
Then we've got Ikate, who's got the shapeshifter ability.
he does.
With this is the Maui Moana,
The first,
definitely not model.
the first merman.
Yeah, nice looking model as well. The scales look lovely on that.
Oh, it's a big
Going to
chunky
be
boy.
using some. I think I'll use some color shifting paints on that to
Nice.
make him stand out.
Very nice.
But yeah, so he's handy at escaping danger with that shapeshifter ability, which can also put him onto the turnbuckle.
Nice.
It clearly says it includes the turnbuckle because he can turn into, I think it's like a mole, so he can get on that, but he can also turn into a bird to get onto the turnbuckle.
So he's going to be a bit of for a weight 3 guy. It's still going to be a bit of a pain. Nice.
Yeah, so 3 movement, but he has an ability that lets him get anywhere. I mean, it uses 3 of his AP. He's got 4 AP, so he sets himself up ready for the next turn, or he just does like a generic turnbuckle ability, turnbuckle move.
Nice. I generally can't wait to get that painted. I've just got a couple of other things in front of it that sort of I need to sort of get done.
Yeah, I've got quite a big batch of models that need washed before they even get primed. And then I've got some models that are washed, need primed, and I've got ones that are primed already. So I've got a lot of different stages of things. But the last new Rumbleslam model that's released is Reefback. This model, like the model itself, looks really cool. The way I've looked at him being like a souped up troll from the Green Bruisers. So he's got the regenerate ability, where he regenerates 1 stamina at the end of the round, but also at the start of his activation. So in a round, he'll be regenerating 2 health, which is not to be sniffed at. World Conservation Wrestler is another passive ability he's got. So a nice bit of WCW reference. Reefback is protected environment. Any wrestler that scores a beatdown on Reefback immediately gets mobbed by environmentalists and ends their activation. So I'm going to assume that the beatdown still takes place. It's just that's the last thing you do.
Yeah, then you're getting some hippies on you.
It's like he's a really cool looking model. So he's got like an orky troll look to his face. He's a pretty big guy, but he's got like a coral reef going down his back. There's a big anchor like half sticking out of him, and he's got like netting and things attached to him. Looks like a really good model. 2 gold attack, 2 silver copper defense, 3 silver grapple, and 1 silver dexterity. 10 health, 3/3 for movement and actions, throw 5. He's got a grapple, he's got a rope, he's got a turnbuckle. Pretty decent. Large polyped and stony. I had to look up the pronunciation of that word so it wasn't just polyped. It's polyped. This wrestler's attacks deal an additional copper damage until the end of the wrestler's activation, and it's 2 AP for his crowd pleaser.
Nice.
That's going to be a nice model to paint as well. Kind of puts us in mind of, do you know the orcs that had the mushrooms and stuff?
Oh, the Mighty Madcaps.
The Mighty Madcaps. It's just a nice opportunity to get a lot of bright colors on what would otherwise be just like a green skin. So I think there'll be a lot of nice paint jobs of this going into the Facebook groups and stuff.
Nice. I think it's only
Uh,
fair to finish our new and shiny with some scenery. I think, Chris. I think given that's
well, in that case, there's one that I forgot to add to the notes that I remembered today.
so unprofessional.
It's very unprofessional. Uh, Blacksite Studio have announced a very special re-release coming in the near future of Violent Dark. They announced it on Alien Day, so if you've not heard of Violent Dark, you, that kind of tells you what sort of game it is. I backed it through the Blackside back room a couple of years ago, and it's very aliens inspired. The the models that came with the game, there's like you've got like the colony kid in the Marine's helmet, you've got the EVA suits, you've got the colony Marines. I don't know if you can say colonial or not. Um, Really nice looking models. It's the same guys that do Don't Look Back. It's by Matt Burns who wrote Don't Look Back, and yeah, really cool game. And I'm looking forward to like a re-release of it. They've said it's not going to be as big of a re-release as what Don't Look Back got.
Mm.
So I doubt there'll be a lot of brand new models and like extras and things going into there. It might just be like a new rule book, and I'll be keeping an eye on what that's going to be when they announce the relaunch or like the pre-orders of that. But depending on what's on there, I might wait and see if Spectre gets that, because if they're going to get the rule books and stuff in more than the models at the moment, I'd probably wait for the book to come out.
Nice.
Because, like I say, I've got the game already. I've got the rule book that obviously comes with the game. So if there's not like a lot of new things that comes with it, again, like I said, like what they said, it's not as big of a re-release as Don't Look Back got. So we'll see. So yeah, the ending on the scenery. If you want to take this one, because I know it's definitely more your wheelhouse.
Yes, the new Carnival scenery kits in the works, especially the sunken ships and slipways. The the kit that they advertised it with was almost more of a, I think they called it it was a pirate harbor or some description.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, the sunken ships I had been sort of told about. They've obviously been teasing them alongside when they've been teasing the new pieces of D8 Rumbleslam guys, by just having these sunken ships sort of like to sort of give a bit more theme to the piratey bits. But now they're
Mm-hmm.
starting to officially sort of release the sunken ships, which are great if you're more of a Richard collector and you kind of want more of that sunken scenery. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it does give, and it's not just, it's great for other games as well, but I think in this respect, it's just, it adds another layer of realism to a city, because obviously with Carnival stuff you've had the Arsenale, you've had the
Mm-hmm.
boats, you've had the ships, and now there's clearly going to be harbors more for civilian stuff rather than military installation.
Mm-hmm.
And they
And you've got the islands that surround Venice itself.
exactly, and it's different. They're bit jetties, and they're going to be obviously showing more in the coming weeks. But otherwise, from what we've already been shown in the advert, well, in the teaser, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna add it. I had it up and then my phone went. Where is it? Yeah, so it does very much. So there's a big sunken ship, uh, a smaller sunken boat, and then just some other like nice sort of outdoors buildings that you would find in a harbour. rather than in enclosed buildings. And again, if other posts are to sort of go by, oh, that was another thing I wanted to mention. It's not obviously we've been teased other things, but I'll finish up the scenery quickly. It looks like a great kit, and more use of ships and harbours, because obviously ships aren't a movable piece of scenery, whereas
Mhm.
boats are. It's nice to get the sort of different angles, different heights. I like again in kind of how it's a game that requires that level of theme,
Mhm.
and it's
Like the 3
yeah,
dimensions
definitely.
are important in the game.
And those I can already see those ships getting quite the treatment, for
Mhm.
scenery, for scenery upgrades, with barnacles, wave, obviously like water damage, moss,
And like I said with the Bond, using just like scraping a saw blade down the side of it. I mean, you'll wreck your saw blade eventually, but it adds some really good wood grain to it.
But
I use a razor saw for mine, I should say.
now I don't know if you've probably been seeing the teasers that they've had with a couple of new Moot Carlo wrestlers. Now, Moot Carlo,
Yes.
I would say, is very, very slow. So I always used to be a big Gamora fanboy, um, but with all the more recent releases for Moot Carlo, they're starting to sort of overtake as one of
Mhm.
my favorite casino. Um, so obviously they had the halfling kits, which was the Lords of the Ring, which was luchador halflings, and I loved them. I enjoyed painting them. I enjoyed playing with them. They're just an
Mhm.
all-round great look. Now they've obviously taken the Lord of the Rings theme and carried on running with it. So the Bruja is basically Gandalf. They made a Gandalf wrestler who's practically half naked except a grey poncho. They've done
The greybeard.
a halfling who won't stop eating. I think it's like a Merry knockoff.
Hmm.
Um,
That's just all of the halflings as well in it.
yeah.
So
And then there was one where it's basically Aragorn throwing a dwarf skeleton.
yeah, I like that model.
And then they've just the most recent one,
Is the
the
elf.
Pluma Luchadora, who is the elf. But
Still counts as one.
it still counts, and I think she does have that rule where I think it still only counts as one. If they don't use that as
Hmm.
a rule, I would be very disappointed. But
I definitely remember it being in the caption.
oh, it is. I mean, now I don't know if these are being brought out as superstars, or is it going to be brought out as like almost like a box set that goes to
Hmm.
add, like a booster, like with the headliner, with the
Yeah,
headliners. Is it going to come out as
yeah.
more like a booster?
The work as a team, but they're not a great team. They're definitely one that would you slot them into your other teams.
And but this is what I mean. Are they going to release them as individuals, superstars, or are they releasing them more as a sort of like named group of people?
Hmm.
I'll be happy either way. Um, Now I don't know how they're going to get a Boromir one or a Sean Bean, because obviously he's just going to die. Um,
He's got one stamina.
yeah,
he come he comes back as a skeleton.
but it's
You can then link him into the Kalaka Kabbalah that way.
and it is just really interesting. Moot Carlo is very much now starting to catch up as one of my favorite factions in
Hmm.
Rumbleslam, just because a lot of the minis they're being brought out, and of whereas as wrestling goes, I have always very much enjoyed watching like luchador, and to me
Hmm.
that's very much just as much wrestling as the WWE is and WWF is.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, it's a very different. The lucha libre style is a very different style of wrestling to what like I'm used to, and it's always like a really good watch.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and I can't wait to hear or to see more about these ones that are coming out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and again, absolutely outstanding models. You can't, and I mean, what can we say? I mean, I there's even models like in their range that I don't want to paint, but I still look at them and I still think, "Yeah, they are fantastic." I just, my prime example
Mm-hmm.
is the pieces of D8 Casino. I really like a lot of the superstars that come out of that faction, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not keen on the two teams that came out, and I have no real interest in painting or buying them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just not, you know, and
I
but they're still
I really
fantastic.
enjoyed painting the Reef Ragers.
And that's it. And I mean, that's the great thing about it. I can still look at them and go, they're fantastic minis. I just have no interest in painting them. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that really shines out as a good quality of a mini, that even though I'm not interested in wanting it or painting them, I can still look at them and accept the fact that they're a really nice mini,
Mm-hmm.
which I think, is it says a lot about, them as a company, and as as a sort of for their production level on things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's safe to say,
They
Chris, that I
take
think,
pictures very well on the stadium.
oh, very
That's for
much so.
sure.
But I think to summarize, and I think scenery, don't overlook it. Never overlook
Mm-hmm.
scenery, because if anything, if your scenery's terrible, or you've not put the same level of effort into your scenery as you would your minis, it will make, if anything, it will look, if your minis will make your scenery look worse by comparison,
Mm-hmm.
and you might sort of lose a level of immersion. But that is, again, completely up to you. I know some people aren't that fussed with it. Um, I sort of fall into that sort of vein where I do like the level of immersion in games, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
helps. But for me, yeah, I think, to summarize, don't be afraid to try things. There's plenty of information out there. I mean, Chris has got plenty of videos on the Tippy Club about improving scenery, just slightly. Um, yeah, just don't be afraid to.
Yeah. Improving your scenery doesn't have to be learning how to wire in like realistic lights and stuff like that. It can be as simple as at a window, just a sheet of plastic, or even when you get a letter through the door and it's got the little the window for the address. Just cut that out, put that on. It's just it does add things. It catches the light when you're playing it, and it does make it look different.
It does, and it is so simple. Well, and I think it's about that time of the show where I think, well, thank you for listening. And if you are listening to us on Spotify, be sure to give us a follow, give us a subscribe.
And if you're listening to us on YouTube, why not drop us a like and subscribe and weigh in with your thoughts on what we've mentioned, missed, or something for us to look at for the next episode in the comments below.
And it's a goodbye from him.
And it's a goodbye from me.